Hello and welcome to the Enjoy Your Bike podcast. First time in English language, and next to me is sitting Dan Miesen.
Hello.
And I'm Ingo Quentler. So why in English?
We have a special guest from the United States. It's Scott King, one of the founders of the SRAM company, and we will have this interview completely in English. And so stay tuned. We will have a few words in German because normally our podcast is just in German language. And so we explain some words in German. Stay tuned. We'll have a lot of information in this podcast about how did the company start, a lot of inside views. Stay tuned. Ingo will just have a quick words in German.
So here the quick words in German. Jetzt nur ganz kurz in Deutsch. Wenn ihr das Englisch nicht versteht, seid nicht traurig. Wir haben leider keine Untertitel in der Kürze der Zeit einblenden können, aber wir sprechen in der nächsten Podcast-Sendung nochmal ausführlich über das Interview, sodass wir da auch nochmal Themen aufgreifen, dass ihr da nichts verpasst. Ansonsten kann ich euch nur ans Herz legen, bleibt dran, hört zu. Inhaltlich wirklich sehr, sehr spannende Inside-Geschichten, die man sonst so nicht hört. Scott hat wirklich sehr, sehr offen geredet und es war auch lustig, bis hin zu dem kleinen Spiel, was wir am Ende gespielt haben.
Wir haben auf Deutsch noch nicht gesagt, der Firmengründer, also einer der Firmengründer der Firma SRAM.
Genau.
Und hatten viel Spaß.
Also, bleibt dran, geht jetzt los, weiter mit dem Interview. Have fun with the interview, which starts now, and talk to you later.
As we say, enjoy.
Yeah, hello, Scott. King is here and one of the founders of SRAM, and yeah, we're really excited to have you here to speak with you as a guy who started all the business. I think it's now 20, 30 years ago.
We started in 87, so we're at 32 years now.
Crazy, I understand, okay.
Yeah, and I'd like to thank both you and Dan and Ingo, thank both of you for the invite.
Well, we are really
appreciate
honored.
the opportunity to become part of the podcast.
Yeah, and then it's our first podcast in English. And maybe if you are from UK, US, or anywhere in the world, please apologize. We will have a German accent maybe, and usually we are talking German. But first podcast in English now, and very happy to have it with you.
Well, great. Thanks for the opportunity.
So it's a great honor. Yeah, really excited.
SRAM, what's the most important thing to know about SRAM? What's your mission?
Well, we believe in the power of bicycles. And so I think that's where it all starts and ends. And so we're trying to make cycling fun for riders.
Okay.
More enjoyable.
So you were riders by yourself, right?
So when we started, we were actually doing triathlons.
Okay.
I was a swimmer in college, probably a better runner actually. And the way that, I really got into the cycling was there were three of us that really were the three that started, and then we had another three that jumped in, a couple of months in. So Stan Day and Sam Patterson were the other two. And the name SRAM actually comes from Stan's middle name is Ray. So it's the S was Scott, the R-A was Ray for Stan's middle name, and then the M for Sam, because we were all three of us started with S's. So,
so the S in SRAM, that's you.
It is me. Yeah. So anyway, Stan had asked me to go to the Upper Peninsula, Michigan, to do a snowshoe race one winter. And so after the race, I said, okay, I came up north and did a snowshoe race. I was living in St. Louis at the time, and I said, let's do a triathlon in St. Louis this summer.
Okay.
And then Stan was also getting ready to do a bike ride with some cousins. And so at that point, Stan was living in downtown Chicago, and it's not the most safe place to ride a bicycle.
Okay.
And back then, you had to reach to the down tube to change gears. And he just thought naturally that was not a smart thing to do.
That was 85 or?
Yeah. And so it was simply trying to create a better mousetrap, at that point. We were trying to create a better way of shifting, and it made sense to be able to shift from the handlebars. And so hence Sam was an engineer, and he was the one tasked with trying to figure out how to do it. And then brought about our first product that was grip shift.
Okay.
And you all were triathletes or some road bikes, riding road bikes
so
as well?
I was basically just doing triathlon. Stan was doing a little road biking, but also triathlon at the time.
And what is you said a snowshoe race? What is this? With long shoes, you're running through the snow?
Yep, that's exactly right. So it was a 6-mile run in big snowshoes up in the Upper Peninsula, in a 5-degree Fahrenheit day. So.
So it sounds hard.
It is, and so it's cold, but you are sweating harder than you can believe because you start off wearing a bunch of clothes because it's very cold, but you are working hard.
Okay.
But the company SRAM was not born. It was the idea of changing how you shift gears.
That's correct.
So you came up with the twisting shifter. Well, how do you come up with a twisting shifter?
So... Excuse me.
It's something we have here. If somebody sees this on YouTube.
Yeah, so that wasn't the first variety. So the first one that we came up with was strictly a road bike product, and went at the end of the handlebars, and actually wasn't a very good product. And we were young guys that thought we were bright and had a great idea, but it wasn't well received by the road cycling market. Excuse me. As you know, the road cyclists, especially them, were very traditional and they didn't like change. And that was a big change because we were asking people to drill holes in their handlebars, which may or may not have been the safest thing in the world either,
right.
Or use a different handlebar than what they were currently riding. And so it was a struggle in the beginning and not the brightest idea, perhaps.
So you didn't sell a lot?
No, we did not. No, we did not sell a lot in the beginning. And then at the time, triathlon was becoming much more popular. We introduced the first product in the January of '88. At that point, the Interbike show in the U.S. And it didn't take long to figure out that we were going to have a tough time in the road market. And then we figured out, well, triathletes are using bars, the extended bars.
Clip-ons.
Exactly. And so if you're in that position, again, do you want to reach down to the down tube to change gears? So we put the shifters out on the end of the handlebars. And then it was about a year later where we figured out a way to make it work on a mountain bike or the end of a closed loop triathlete bar, which was a product pretty similar to this.
Okay.
So I think that's the second generation of it.
So this success came with the triathletes, which is normal because they are more open for innovation than anybody else in the market, I think. It's up to today, I think.
Yeah, and then
mountain bikes.
Yeah. And then with the second variation, we were very successful in the mountain market.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw some numbers which are published, how many sets you sold per year, and then increasing. But the start in 87 then or 88, that was tough because there is a new product and you...
Right. We may have sold 1,000 units the first year.
Okay.
So not very many.
But it went up, as far as I heard, up to millions, right?
Well, yeah, the mountain product was selling millions a year.
So grip shift on the mountain bike, that was in the end the most selling numbers.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And still today you have this version on some
we
sort of
still have
shift.
the twist grip, the old grip shift type of items. It doesn't lead the market anymore. It's the push button shifters. I still think the grip shift's the better one for mountain, but
right. And so you gave up your jobs to believe in that one product and say that's our new future, the founders. So you said
that's what we
put everything on the table and say this is our new business, bike business.
Yeah, and like I said, there were days where we were all thinking, what are we doing?
Right.
So it was, like I said, it was a struggle in the beginning, but we kept thinking, we've got a great idea, and so It makes so much sense. And in our minds, it was like, why aren't these road riders wanting to change? Why do they want to reach down to the down tube to change gears?
Sorry. The first constructions, is it like in a garage? Is it the same word in Germany for garage as in English? I don't know. Was it at your home, staying at home and doing these products, or did you have a manufacturer, stuff like this?
So Sammy, our engineer, lived out in San Diego at the time, and so he was using shops out there to do the prototyping, if you will. And we went through a couple variations of that, and once he proved that his concept would work, and it was such a simple thing to do, which is the amazing part about it. So it actually ended up that it was basically 3 pieces of plastic that were harmonically welded together. It was there were no moving pieces inside of it, so it was something that really couldn't break. It was
reliable.
Yeah, and actually, one of our current employees worked in a bike shop at the time, and he said that they thought, oh, this isn't a real good idea, and he took it. It was on the end of a handlebar, and he smashed it down. And he goes, the outside of it broke, but the inside, he goes, the outside came off because of the way he smacked it down, but the inside part, had held together, and he could still work it. And he was like. So even if you crashed your bike, because a lot of people thought, well, if you crash your bike and you hit the handlebar, the grip shift's no longer going to work. He goes, it's so simple that it still works. And then he started thinking, oh, maybe these guys are onto something here.
So what did it need to bring your products to the cyclist and to make awareness of the product? So you went to the Interbike.
You're just in the internet. You'd make an Instagram and post stuff like this.
On Facebook, you say, we have this great idea.
We didn't have any of that.
What did you do? You went on the road and go to some races, or Interbike was a bike show. We also attended Interbike in Las Vegas. That Interbike you went was somewhere else, not in Las Vegas.
So the first one we went to in '88 was in Long Beach, California, and then it moved to Reno, Nevada, and it was there for a couple years after that. Mm-hmm. But so we started off. Our first introduction was in January of '88 at the Long Beach show, and. So, again, then after that, we started hitting races. We'd show up with some banners or maybe a tent. And, we weren't paying, sponsorship fees or anything.
Well, if you sell 1,000 units, how much can you sponsor? You have to pay for food as well.
Right. So we like to refer to it as guerrilla marketing.
Guerrilla marketing is still, we know what it is.
Right. So that's what we were doing.
Yeah. All right. So what was then the first step where you said, now this is a breakthrough, we are selling serious number of this product? Or was there another product? This was the only product?
Well, there's actually something in between there.
Okay.
And so that was we were also being kept out of the market by Shimano at the time.
Okay.
And so we actually sued Shimano for antitrust in the U.S. for some of the things that they were doing at the time. We're talking back in the late 80s at this point. They controlled the bicycle market at this point. They sold over 70% of every part that went on every bike in the world.
Okay.
And Suntour was actually number 2 at the time.
Not Campanello, Suntour.
Suntour had 20% and Campanello had about 10.
Okay.
And so even when we would then with the mountain product, we'd have an OE that would want to put it on Shimano. We made one part that went on the bike.
This.
Right. So it had to work with the Shimano derailleur.
So it was compatible with every group set, right?
Yeah, it was designed differently for Suntour or for Campanello or Shimano. Okay. But we had to be on the Shimano bikes to be successful.
Yeah.
And so we're being kept off those bikes. So that was the reason for the lawsuit.
Okay. But this opened also the door after the lawsuit. The old market was open.
Right. And so, the lawsuit was wonderful for the industry because no one else was able to get in either. So we settled the case with Shimano, and part of that was that the settlement was that they would allow the use of our products with their products, and so, but it also opened up the industry for other people to also come in and operate with their products.
To make compatible
right.
products.
And so, if something like that hadn't happened, I don't think today we would have the marketplace we do with all the cassette manufacturers and chainring manufacturers or chain manufacturers. They wouldn't have a way, to get on those OE bikes.
Yeah, it's maybe comparable to Microsoft Windows in the past, where they had to get the Firefox on it, stuff like this, right? Or Mozilla.
Exactly same concept.
Yeah. Okay, understand.
Okay. And that was against the law in the United States. So even though...
Right. Well, and I'm sure it was also against the law in the EU, but at this point, we weren't a global company. And we'd never thought about, when we started...
You thought about the market in the United States.
We looked at the U.S. and our dream at that point was if we could ever sell $50 million worth of product, we would have enjoyed our life, and we'd probably all be playing golf or whatever the case was. I'm a golfer, so that's
all right. Okay, so
that's why I say that. But so we didn't even understand the rest of the world, for the first 3 years probably.
Right.
Yeah, and it was not a global world like today. So you don't have any idea of Europe if you don't travel there or stuff like this and understand the market. So today it's maybe easier to understand the world market than in the past, right?
Right. And then, European law is a little bit different than U.S. law in that in the U.S. it would, it's usually a competing company suing a company versus in Europe it's usually one of the competition authorities going after a company. Saying you need to, stop or change your policy. So it's different in the U.S. in terms of usually how you go about trying to get something changed as well. But it's also harder in that you have to be able to fund the lawsuit as well.
Yeah, it's more expensive to have this lawsuit.
Right. But then there's also more upside if you're successful.
Yeah, understand. Yeah.
So your occupation is to be a lawyer.
That's my training. I never wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So after that, then were some big bike brands combining the products then and speccing your grip shifts?
Yeah, so two things sort of happened at the same time. We settled the case with Shimano, and then we also had a breakthrough with a much better mountain grip shift. So they happened almost simultaneously. So
a better product.
Right. So we settled the case. We developed this great product that we were then also able to go to the OEs, and they knew now that they could put the product on the bike. And so we jumped from selling 1,000 units a year to selling over 300,000 units a year. It was, a dramatic change for us.
1,000 to 300,000 within 2 years, or
within less than a year.
Okay.
All right. That's a big step then.
But it's also difficult to have all the money to start production and getting the products on them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And 300,000 units. We know that a lot of your production is in Taiwan, but at the beginning was your production in the United States, or where did you get these big numbers produced?
Right. So in the beginning, it was the U.S. Like I said, we didn't even think about anything outside of the company, and I can tell a funny vignette of probably the second time any of our guys went to Taiwan to sort of check out the bike market where the bikes were being built. A couple of guys were there, and I'm not going to use names, but they were touring around the countryside to the bike builders, and they stopped at a little street vendor to get something to eat.
All right.
And one of the guys took a bite and thought, something's wrong, threw it over his shoulder. The other guy didn't. So a couple months later, I'm thinking, oh my God, X is really getting in shape. he's losing weight, he's riding a lot. Well, he crashed, broke his hand, and then after having to take, a bunch of antibiotics because he had surgery on his hand, he realized he had a tapeworm.
Oh,
That he knew exactly where he had gotten the tapeworm.
Okay.
So that's where he was losing the weight. So that was one of our early impressions of Taiwan. also.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it was a lot different back then than it is
So
now.
it's maybe eaten something wrong and they get this worm. Can you get rid of it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And that's why he found out. He was taking the antibiotics. And
Okay.
yeah, and then he.
And now he gained weight again? Or?
No, actually he kept it off.
Oh, okay, that was a good thing.
So the first production was in Chicago, or where did you produce?
Yeah, we were actually producing in this horrible warehouse. It had previously been where McDonald's had warehoused their tea for all the McDonald's in the U.S. And so it was a multi-story building, and whenever anyone walked on the floor above us, tea would fall down through the rafters. So every day your desk would be
Full of tea.
Yeah, it would be covered with new sediment from the floors above.
From McDonald's.
Right. But we weren't paying a lot for the space.
Okay.
I think we were paying $1.20 a foot.
Okay.
So it cost nothing. It wasn't in the best neighborhood either.
Yeah.
All right.
Our cars would be busted into during the day,
And you purchased all the machinery to get things started, or
yeah, but it didn't take much. Basically, all we needed was a sonic welder because we had the plastic pieces injection molded at a mold house for us that was 50 miles away. So, like I said, our parts were so simple.
right?
Which was anytime you're trying to manufacture, you want to make it simple.
Okay.
Because simple's easy to produce. You don't have to worry as much about quality.
And if you have less parts can break.
Right.
Less parts can fail. That's obvious.
I started too late with race or cycling stuff like this, so I don't remember the grip shift time. So what was the technique? It's just a cable that was moved by the.
So if you take this apart, I think you can kind of see in there. There is, you can see the ridges in there, and so there was a part that as it spun, essentially. You'd have your cable that came out here, and there was a metal piece in there that rode along the cam in there. So as you twisted it, it would pull and release for the index shifting.
Okay.
And so our parts were 2 pieces of plastic, a little metal piece that was in there in your cable, and that was it.
Okay.
I used it in my first Ironman. I remember that grip shift. I also had a Scott clip
The
on.
DH bar.
And in my first Ironman, which was in Rot near Schweinfurt, now it's not an Ironman anymore. It's called the Challenge, but that was my first one. And I still remember I had the grip shifts at the end. So love it.
Yeah.
So when did the numbers grow so high that you had to go out of the McDonald's manufacturing place and go somewhere else?
Yeah, it wasn't too long. And then we also started manufacturing in Taiwan so that we could be by...
Where the OEMs...
Where the OE bike production was. Okay. So that it happened pretty quickly.
So who was the first bike brand who said, we partner up with you?
I'm trying to think who the first one was.
They get all the credit today.
Right. But it was a bunch of them that jumped in pretty quickly. But yeah, I'm blanking on who the first... But it was one of the big brands.
Yeah. Okay.
And was it either the mountain bikes which get spec'd OE?
It was all mountain.
All mountain bikes.
It was all mountain.
There was no road bike manufacturer saying we spec it with no. Okay,
No,
because
the roadies just had no interest in the product.
Okay.
Although even we had great success because we had one of the cyclists in the '88 Olympics for the U.S. who ended up in.
That's correct.
Bob Miansky.
Yeah. Germany 1, 2, 3, and then 4 was America.
Yeah, Miansky.
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
It was East Germany who won.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, and the worst thing was that it was the same day that was it Ben Owens? He had been busted with steroids, the 100-yard sprinter.
But that was a Canadian sprinter, I guess.
Right. But
Yeah.
so all the coverage that night in the U.S.
I got you.
Here we are all excited because the road race is going to be on TV.
Okay, and everybody's talking
then-
about the doping.
Right.
Okay.
It's 100-meter sprinter, or
I think
Yeah.
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson.
Ben
Ben
Johnson.
Johnson.
Ben
it
Owens.
was,
Ben
yeah.
Johnson. That's
So Ben
right.
Johnson.
Yeah.
So the coverage of the road bike race in the Olympics was not on telly. It was.
Okay.
I think they, came in for like the last 2 miles of the race.
But-
I understand. Okay.
But if you say your product launched in '87 and in '88 you had a guy in the Olympics coming in the top 10,
Right.
and it didn't draw too much attention to the road cyclists. Well, you had the wrong marketing team.
Roadies are stubborn. That's all I can.
But
Or
it's
they were. I shouldn't say.
Yeah, but still today they're carefully changing things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not?
Well, we come to this point later. I think a lot of people quickly adopted to electrical shifting. So, and these are roadies as well.
Right.
Yeah, but
Because it's comfort. It's
Yeah, but
comfortable.
it's also took a lot of time, and up to today, you find a lot of people who say no electronics.
Well, these days, it was a long start. And so, if I understand correctly, the mountain bikers, they gave the breakthrough to the mass production.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It was all due to Mountain.
Right. Good. And the second product.
Yeah,
we have
what was the first
And
product?
after grip shift what came next?
What
What
came
another-
next? Yeah.
We had another product called the Eni buoy for swimmers.
Okay.
And it was Eni Jones. Yeah, they won't.
They don't know?
They don't know. They're young pups.
They say they know it.
Oh, really? Okay.
I have no idea what you're talking
So
about.
it was
Anybody? Wait a minute. We are sitting in the podcast. We are 3 person, and 2 persons are sitting there from SRAM. So these are the other ones who just
Einwinken.
you can come and say
wave into the camera at least.
Tibor and Nadia.
yeah. Tibor, Nadia, they came together with Scott to our
If we
office
say
today.
then nobody knows
And
who's in the room.
they have to sit beside us and don't
They
tell
don't-
anything.
They're
Just
supposed
here.
to keep me out of trouble.
Oh, they keep you out of trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. No, we don't bring you into trouble.
So the second product, the swimming product, I never heard
Right,
about it.
Yeah, and we didn't have a lot of success. We didn't, focus on it. It was really a neat idea, though. It was
Okay.
For swimmers put between their legs. They use buoys when
Yeah,
swimming.
buoy.
And this was made of plastic, and you could add water to 2 sides, so you can make it heavier or more buoyant,
Right.
depending on what you were trying to do. And so that was the thought behind it.
Okay.
Okay. And that was also a product you licensed under SRAM.
Yes.
So you sold
need
maybe
one of this.
you sold a few hundred of them and a few million of the other one. So this one
Right.
was not that
Yeah.
important anymore, right?
Yes.
So, what was growing your company? What was the next step then?
So
what happened then?
Well, and so, we were growing. I don't, want to talk too much about it, but, Shimano had left us alone, let us grow. And then I think we started taking a lot of market share and ended up having the same issue we'd had before, sued again. That time
All right.
ended up being successful in court. And then we started making some acquisitions after that.
Okay.
Okay.
so-
And the one acquisition is you are here in Germany right now, and you just came from Schweinfurt up to
right.
Hanover.
Yeah, so the Saks acquisition, which was a large one, and it was all about trying to develop more of the product on the bikes. We saw that as being critical to our future, as opposed to having to go on bikes with all the other manufacturers or because we weren't making derailleurs, we weren't making chain, we weren't making cassettes. And so that gave us the ability to start making other items.
So, but there are a lot of countries in the world which have engineers. So why did you attract Sachs in Schweinfurt? How do you come to the idea? You don't saw an advert on Google? So how do you be aware of this is going to be an option that we can buy?
Yeah.
Sorry for asking silly questions.
No, that's all right. But
I just think how do you get to this company?
Right. Yeah. No. And in that world, the financial world, you contact people that know about businesses being for sale or potential businesses being for sale. And, there's I shouldn't call it an underground. It's not an underground, but there is
people know each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, they circulate businesses that are looking for acquisition or, people that want to sell something off. And so that's how the connection's usually made.
And this was a Mannesmann company, right? Sachs and
They belong to Mannesmann these days, right?
Yeah, and you figured out over this underground connections. Okay, there is a company. There is a company that is doing bike parts, right?
Right, and so
the right bike parts which fitted perfectly to you, or did you make it fit for you what they are doing?
A little of both, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, it worked out well for us. It's been a great acquisition. Not only the products, but the people. The people are key. We've stayed in Schweinfurt. We have, I don't know how many employees do we have in Schweinfurt. 160, something like that. And it's engineering is critical there. We have a lot of product testing there. We've got marketing for Europe, sales, OE sales, and aftermarket sales are based there. But the German engineering now is.
Oh, we have a lovely book here with the title on it. I want to show it into the camera.
So at the end of the day, what many people do not know that SRAM partly is made in Germany. At least the development.
Right. No, we'd be nothing without our German engineering. Because they've been critical. They've done. Our
typical German.
Our Eagle drivetrain has been all done here, and so we're even starting to do some more development here in Germany, other than just Eagle.
So, you bought Sachs, and did you continue to sell the Sachs products in the beginning? And then how long did it take to make the first real SRAM product at Sachs? Is it a few years or?
Excuse me. We continued there with the internal gear hub that was made there. Actually, we also got a factory in Portugal with it. That's where we make all our chain, and so which we still have too. We've got the Portugal factory, and that's where our chains developed there and the Schweinfurt facility. And I think we have 120, 130 employees in Portugal. So
the hub was a product Sachs had for tons of years. I mean, for ages.
Right, and sold
that was
millions,
their product.
Yeah, sold millions.
So you kept that.
Yeah,
we kept that for a while.
And we ran the hub business. We actually got out of that about 3 years ago, probably, where we actually finished doing that.
So 3 years ago from now.
Right.
Okay. So up to now.
Yes. So we ran that for quite a while.
All right.
Under the SRAM brand or still Sachs?
Under SRAM.
Okay.
SRAM then.
I don't know. Yeah.
So the engineers in Germany, they had the mission. Now we need a complete group set, so we have to go that way. Or
yeah, it was
Was that the thinking, the plan of the acquisition? They could help us bring out a complete group set.
Yeah, that was the plan. That eventually we got to be able to make all our own stuff.
But not for
entire
roadies,
group.
right? Just for mountain bikers.
Well, the roadies are.
We want the rest. Yeah, we wanted that too, but our success had been in mountain.
So you started with a mountain bike group set then?
It made sense. And then we had a couple other acquisitions, Travative on the cranks, Avid on the brakes, RockShox on the forks, and then 2011 Quark power meters, and then we've had a small one another power tap that we did probably 6 months. Time flies so fast. Maybe 6 months ago we did that, and then there was another smaller little thing that's a very dedicated that no one in the bike industry would even know about. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and the smallest of all this was Zip.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a bike with Zip
that's
tires.
Right. We got the zip wheels back
We
here.
forgot about this
Right.
little.
Yeah, that was back Zip in 2008. So
It's not important. They have no share in the bike industry. It's just Zip.
just
So-
tiny.
Tiny.
So the first SRAM group set for mountain bikes, how was it the same difficulties to get into the market, or was the market already open because you are on the grips?
I think it was open for us because we were used to dealing with the OEs. You know, we had our foot in the door. We're making calls on them all the time because we're already selling them, you know, a bunch of other products. And I think that, you know, the cycling market is so small in terms of suppliers that the OE brands were probably also looking for other alternatives, so they're not so reliant on
the big ones.
That's a general, you know, business model. You don't want to rely on one person too much, because, you know,
if they can't deliver, they have another option to get stuff.
Exactly.
Like this,
If they have a fire in a factory, or, you know, whatever the case may be, you don't want to be so reliant on one person.
Yeah.
About the acquisitions, is it the same thing like we explained with Sachs? Is it that Zip wants to sell the company and you get awareness of this and then you say, we might be a good partner? Or is it because it's an American brand, they like to sell to an American? Or how do these deals happen? And how do you grab? How do you?
Usually, a manufacturer or some company that's wanting to sell puts together what you call a book. You know, on all the information, and they have someone. They usually hire someone who's going to be their salesperson for it, and they go out and market it. And, you know, they'll usually contact the capital people, or they look at who's in the marketplace and who might be a logical acquirer of the product.
Are you 6 founders really doing this, or is this just one people responsible for it, or is it a group of lawyers?
No, they're people responsible for it in the company.
Okay. Yeah, I never bought a company, so I don't know. So maybe in the future, I don't know. But this is always not really to understand how this happens. And but for now, what I feel is that all your acquisitions worked out well, right?
Yeah,
up to now
we've been very successful with the acquisitions.
Yeah.
Well, so brought you to the thing that we have a complete group set, wheels, stems, the whole thing.
Right. We wouldn't be where we are today without them.
Yeah. I'll see what
Yeah,
comes.
and
What comes
you know,
in the future.
it's worked out. You know, we try to be a leader in everything that we do, and, you know, at this point, thank you very much. At this point, we've
it's
you know,
SRAM beer.
It is SRAM beer. It's great beer.
It's great beer.
It's a market leader also.
Is it from Schweinfurt?
Market leader.
Is it from Schweinfurt?
Is it from Schweinfurt? Or who
I don't
brews
know.
the SRAM beer?
I think it is from Schweinfurt. I don't know if this one's made by
Hofheim. Brauerei Raab.
One of our
is it nearby Schweinfurt?
Yeah,
okay,
one of our,
nearby
I don't
Schweinfurt.
know. One of our general manager's family is in the beer business, and we used to get beer from him, but I don't know if this one's. Okay.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
cool.
this is from his family's brewery also.
Great stuff.
Sorry, so to interrupt.
Well, it's another acquisition. It's this brewery.
We really ought to acquire this.
Great stuff. Before we move on, in the beginning we had this six founders and the name SRAM, and we know Scott is now the S in SRAM. Before we move on and forget about this, there must be an idea of calling it SRAM, and I would like to hear a story.
Okay.
Why is SRAM?
So at the time when we were, starting up, we'd hired a marketing firm, spent a lot of money with them, trying to do things
Which
the right way.
had.
And so every time they would come up with a name for the company, it was already taken. And so...
and registered.
Right. And so it's like, why are you giving me the name? Why haven't you checked it before you give me the name? You would think they would. You would think they would do that, right? But they didn't.
And no internet. You always have to call someone, and
it wasn't
not just Google or domain is away.
Right, it
Okay,
was a
take
lot
another
more
one.
Domain is available.
It was a lot more difficult back then. And so we were down to the last 24 hours where we had to have our 4-color artwork done for the first Interbike show.
Oh, for the booth, for attending the show.
So we had to have a name to have all our publications, all our flyers, brochures done, and we didn't have a name.
24 hours prior to the show.
24 hours prior. So Stan comes in the morning and he goes, SRAM, Scott Ray Sam. And I said, I hate it. It sounds Japanese. And well, at the time, that may not sound great, but at the time there was, in the U.S. there was some anti-Japanese sentiment, and so I was like, well, first of all, it sounds like Shimano.
All right,
and and so Stan's response was, "Do you have a better name?"
Okay, you have 24 hours,
and I was like, no, and so that's how we got the name.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that we spent a lot of money that ended up with that name.
And in the final end, you were under pressure.
Right.
And you never know how a name worked out. I was searching for a name too with Enjoy a Camera. Was my first thing, which works. I heard about that it works really great in Germany, but Americans and UK people sounds odd because Enjoy a Camera doesn't work. I think with Enjoy a Bike, it's working a little bit better maybe internationally.
You tell us.
I love the name. I think it's a great name. Too bad you couldn't have could have used your help when we were coming up with a name. And so we show up to the first Interbike show, and they'll have a name up on a placard where your booth is, and they had SRAM as our name. And so
the first trade show, even your chosen name was wrong.
That's correct. And there are only 2 words in the English dictionary that start with SR. It's SRAM, and I'm not even sure what the other one is. And so many people have trouble saying the name SRAM. It's SRAM, SRAM.
SRAM I hear often in YouTube.
SRAM.
Yeah,
so
SRAM we hear a lot of times.
Yeah.
Right. So but people have a lot of difficulty with our name.
So we clear this now. It's SRAM, not
right.
SRAM.
Yes.
And not Scram.
And that's right.
Definitely not Scram. I like these kind of stories.
Yeah.
It's sorry for going back. We were in the mountain bike and extending all the products and acquisitions.
So the mountain bike group set was the next big business thing also after the grip shift, or is there anything else?
Well,
which we
all
don't
the
know?
acquisitions in there, and then then the mountain bike group set, all the mountain products. With Zip. We did get BSS along. Everyone thinks the wheels. They think the aerodynamic story, but we do make BSS under the Zip name, which has been very successful also.
Okay.
Right.
And in my life, the first things I knew from SRAM was the road group set. When did you start with it, and was it it was not that easy, maybe, as the mountain bike business.
I remember it was the Force group set. Was that the first
and I
road
think it
group
was
set?
207.
Okay.
May have been the...
Still young, okay.
Right, yeah.
Tibor, 207, 2007?
I believe 206.
206. But it was the Force group
Yeah.
set. Yeah.
Fourth rival.
Force and
and
Rival
Rival,
was the
okay.
first one, right. With the double tap.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the new technology was there anything which was really new against the competitors, like the double tap, stuff like
Yeah,
this?
double tap was the big
Okay.
thing.
Which-
Which
thing.
I guess is a
Yeah.
big, you have to be aware of about patent things that you have to come up with a different thing.
Right. And I mean, you've always got to deal with patents of competitors.
Yeah.
And so,
So double tap means one tap only for both sides, directions of the shifting, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You just
People
press
who don't
further.
write who didn't write any SRAM mechanical, then don't know about it, right?
Right.
Well, now they write electric.
Surprising how many people do.
Yeah.
Right, that will be that. We come to this later on into the newest technology, and so the first group set, was it the first group set you brought to a Tour de France team, or that came really later? I remember Lance Armstrong had
Right. He won.
with Johan Brunel, which is
I think
also in the podcast.
I think his last win was on our product.
The last one.
Yeah, I believe that's what it was. So yeah, we immediately tried to get into the pro racing, and we had success with that.
So from the early days where nobody liked not liked, but was afraid about going for the grip shift system on the road bike, now you have a group set on the Tour de France.
Yep.
How does that feel?
And success. I mean,
How does that feel?
it's quite a change.
It's quite a change.
Okay.
It's quite a change.
Did this makes you some sort of now we achieved what we wanted.
We finally got to the roadies.
Right. Now we just need to keep going, gain some
Yeah.
market share and gain momentum. But the competition makes great stuff too. So Shimano, Campagnolo, they're making great products, and, it's hard to battle the incumbents like that also.
Okay.
Well, but it brings out maybe better products
Right.
to be in the
From
competition.
all of them at
Right.
the end of the day.
We thrive on innovation and trying to push the limits and, take product to the next level. And I'm sure it has an effect on the competitors too.
Yeah. You always have to think to make something better than the other ones.
Right.
Yeah.
And it makes the whole market maybe bigger because it gets more awareness.
Right. And, people naturally always, they strive to have that top item, the Apple Watch or the Apple phone, or, everyone wants that's,
I know one.
They view it as a status symbol. And
So you started with the Force. Was it right from the beginning that you will make an the red upper the Force, or was it like you made a new development and said, okay, we have to put it on up
no,
top?
it was always part of the plan.
Okay.
But it's
Usually it's other way.
Right,
As far as I
usually
know,
you start
you
at the
take
higher
the
end and-
early adapters at the high price point and then the lower group set.
Right.
But this way, I didn't
So
hear.
SRAM Red, that was a year later,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Okay.
And we have we have a thinking about the name SRAM Red, which nobody confirmed so far. So maybe you know and you can confirm, or you don't know. But why is it called red? Do you know the answer? Or we have a thinking of maybe why it is red, but nobody
So-
confirmed it. Do you know that?
I don't know for a fact, but I think I would know why. Usually, SRAM is red, Shimano's blue.
Okay.
Is that Tibor?
I have a different version.
Good
but maybe we have to go back to the marketing department, or they grab my story now. Because remembering there was from the hubs from Sachs, the early shifters for these hubs were on a red plate, and I always thought maybe that is a good thing. as a connection?
Honestly, that one I don't know.
All right.
I'm a lawyer.
That's okay.
So
Okay,
some of that.
so we will-
but force makes sense. Everybody understands rival and force, but red is a color. So it was now
It worked well.
it worked well. Everybody knows it. So
well, and we still use it. So.
Yeah.
and,
So
and SRAM worked out. So all good.
So, despite your law stuff like with Shimano, are there any other critical moments in the company business? Do you grow too fast or some stuff like this, or technical issues that had to be solved? Do you remember, or do you have something to share with us? Because it's always interesting.
Yeah.
You learn a lot about in doing strong, tough times in a company.
Right. And I think, at times we push things a little too far, or we try to go too quickly. And, we had some quality issues in the past. And so we, are working hard now to make sure that we don't make those same mistakes. And we've really bumped up our quality department and our focus on quality. And so it's not just about what we do in the factory in terms of production, but it's how we engineer the products. And so we have had some hiccups with quality, but I think it's made us a better company in the long run. And now that's a huge focus for us. We really, we didn't even have a VP of quality until probably 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So we've taken it very seriously, and we are trying to do everything we can to make sure that when the product comes out, it's ready so that we don't have any issues, for our OE partners or for the marketplace.
The financial crisis, 2008, 2009, did this make also a big problem? People are not investing. The economy goes a little bit down. People are afraid.
We did take on an investment partner in 2008, and the deal closed the day before the market closed.
One day before.
One day before the market
One day
crashed,
before the
market crashed.
So,
so if it had been a day later, that deal would not have taken place. And so, talk about timing. It was, sort of incredible because the money hit the account and then the market crashed.
Okay.
Well, if you expand your company, you need cash flow to produce, right?
So in terms of the cycling market definitely took a hit at that point. And, now we've got a financial partner, and, they're worried about, what's going on, and they're trying to, talk in your ear and tell you what to do and how you need to behave. And so, you never like that kind of activity. But we were very fortunate that, we did a good job, and our finances were in good shape, and we were on a big growth curve at the time, and we bought out the financial partner in 2011. So we had a very short run with a outside investor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you invested it, and 3 years later you went out again. Okay.
Yeah, we bought them out. They made a lot of money. They were happy.
They were happy.
Yeah.
They were happy.
And in well, you don't have to answer, but do you want to go to the stock market? Do you want to become a public company someday?
At this point, no.
No.
So you're still owned by these 6 people, or did it change a little bit?
The Day family's the major shareholder of the company.
Okay.
Stan and FK, who's jumped in right after that, and then the management of the company.
So, acquisitions, financial problems sometimes.
So what now then when we are talking about today, where SRAM is standing, you're now a well-known company in the road bike, triathlon bike, as well as and maybe the biggest part still mountain bike business.
Is it mountain bike or road? Do you know that?
It's mountain bike.
It's mountain bike.
Mountain bike,
by far.
By far.
By far.
With Eagle and RockShox and so on, right?
Okay.
But we have the feeling as with the SRAM Access this year, we have the feeling from our side, because we are building a lot of gravel bikes here by ourselves, and people decide which group set and stuff like this, that with the Access, especially with the Force Access, you gain market share, at least with our customers. So we have the feeling that this is also maybe a breakthrough with the Access system, with the wireless shifting system. You started revolutionary because it was wireless, but I think it's now at a point where people, more rely about it. It's the not only the red, you have the Force now. It's affordable, more affordable, and we have the feeling that people really waited for it. And
in terms of market share, as I said, Mountain. We have
by far
we have done a very good job.
Okay.
And road we've lagged behind. And part of it was, Shimano and Campagnolo had the electronic early. And we made a tactical mistake because at the time we thought, who needs electronic shifting?
That's interesting.
Well, because mechanical shifting really works well.
Absolutely.
And so it was our thought, who would want to spend all the extra money for electronic shifting? Well, as it turns out, a lot of people were willing to do it. And so we did not jump on that bandwagon early. And so, but the good thing is that once we did it, I think we took a lot of time to sit back and, evaluate if we were going to make an electronic system, what the consumer would really want. And so I think one of the key things is that we went wireless from the beginning, that we never developed a wired system. And I think it's a huge advantage for us. It makes setup of the bike so simple. It makes, any mechanic will tell you having to run wires inside most frames, to make it look good is not easy or fun, and it's time consuming. And so, with our system, putting it on and getting it set up is a very, very simple thing to do. And you don't even need to be the greatest bike mechanic to do it. Not that I'm not saying you don't want a bike mechanic to do it, but most people.
No, we had reviews about the group sets. The AXS, we were one of the early ones who could ride gravel bikes with the new group set before it was launched, and we played by the rules, so it was on time. But we tried it, and we when we rode the bike, we saw, oh, that's really great. So we liked it, even though we had the ETAP electronic early on, but the new group set, we really liked it from the first day.
I think why did it take so long to get a Force ETAP? So the first ETAP was just the red only for a few years, and there was no Force inside, and people are looking and searching for it. Then there came the red Access, and this was the first, I think 3-4 months later the Force Access came. And so was it not possible to develop it at this price point at this time?
So it was, we're just like any other company. We've got limited resources, and it's making a decision as to what you want to use your resources for. And so it was a conscious decision on our part that we were going to just jump from the original 11-speed ETAP to 12-speed Access, and there was a lot of development involved with it. So rather than take our resources and do the 11-speed Force group, we decided to, we knew that it was going to hurt us in the short term because we weren't going to have that product to fight Ultegra. But we thought that in the long run, we would be better off just developing our Access Red and Force groups
together then, and that because it was two developments, to have a cheaper version of ETAP and as well as going 12 by 12
and the
12 speed.
along with that, the app, and we took the wireless system a lot farther than the original version. So, we're a bicycle company, and I don't know how many electronic engineers we have now spread across the globe.
I bet.
And if you had said 10 years ago, you're going to have a bunch of electronic engineers, we all would have said, no, there's no way that's ever going to happen.
Well, it's the same in the car industry. It's mechatronics. It's people who have to understand electronics as well as motor engineering.
Right. And, now we have, wireless dropper posts. We've got, tire whiz. We've got shock whiz.
It's a lot of electronic in a bike.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of hidden software that nobody sees. Every derailleur has a software inside, or firmware at least, and stuff like this. So, and so it takes, what does it take? We visited the headquarter of SRAM in Schweinfurt this year or last year. I don't
Both
remember.
years, but
both years, and we made a tour to the factory. We saw all the testing there and stuff that we were not allowed to film, unfortunately. But we saw all the machines testing, all the derailleurs and shifting gears and stuff like this. So this is a lot of invisible work which is done until the product gets on our table or on our bikes. So how long do you develop on the access system? 2 or 3 years or longer, or?
It just depends on the product. So, the original Ready Tap, we may have worked on that for 6 years.
6 years.
Maybe longer.
Okay.
And so, you look at, the fun. It was, but plus it was a huge learning curve for us because we'd never done anything like that before. And you look at all the money you're spending on the development, all the engineers, with their time that's involved with that. And, so it's a big investment, making a complete jump in terms of technology for something like that.
So the first step to the electronic shifting, the ETAP, was a longer development period than the step to the next version.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because we'd learned a lot, and we were also able to use a lot, from what we learned in the first version. But, you also start thinking, you put down, okay, these are the requirements. This is what we want to meet with the product. And, as you're developing that, then you're like, oh, wait, I thought, why didn't we think of this? And, but you can't make a stop and change. And so it's like, all right, we'll put that into the next version.
And it's now on mountain bikes as well.
It's been hugely successful for us. And I think that's one of the reasons, why in mountain we've had so much success. The competitor came out with a electronic group, but it really didn't work. So we weren't behind them because they had an electronic group and we didn't. We think we had a superior mechanical product to what they had. But our mountain product has been incredibly reliable. I heard a stat that out of all the Eagle electronic groups that we've only had 5 warranty issues.
5
so far with that product.
Okay.
Okay.
And I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands.
Oh, that's
groups.
very good.
So, mountain is a different type of riding.
You're riding really hard this stuff.
And you had a walk through our bikes, which we have on display outside of the podcast studio, and you saw a lot of gravel bikes here where we are located because the gravel bikes are growing a lot. And what we really like, and you know that of course, but we like it that you combine now the mountain bike technology in the rear and the road shifters in the front, because the gravel cyclist.
Yeah, we call that the mullet bike.
The mullet, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But you saw it mounted on the bikes, and this is what we sell now, more than 50%. And talking about 10 years ago, nobody saw, oh no, it's a road bike. Is the gravel bike thing in America do you get this as a new trendy sport, or do you see even yourself or friends, this is growing?
Oh, in the U.S., e-mountain bike hasn't really come yet. We don't have that, but the gravel riding has really become something. We've got these huge rides now.
Dirty Kansas and races like that are, even we know
and,
this.
They open those things up and they sell out in 4 minutes.
Okay.
It's just shocking. If you were to sit back and, think about it, it makes all the sense in the world because you've got a bigger tire, it's more comfortable to ride it, and not everybody is just trying to get from point A to point B as fast as they can.
Right.
A lot of people are riding, they're riding with friends, they want to be able to talk and converse, and if you're going to be more comfortable, why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and you want to get away from traffic.
It's
also a big thing.
Absolutely.
We rose right into
Germany,
the woods because we want to get away from the traffic.
Germany is really more population per square meter or square foot, however your measures are. So we are really happy to go away from the streets and go over the just gravel pavement and try out new ways we would never try out in the beginning. And the good thing is that people now realize there are many people coming here and asking, oh, I want to ride by a gravel bike and stuff like this. You only need to sit them on the bike with 650B tires, 47 millimeters. Go around here and they say, okay, it's really fast, this bike. It's not slower than a normal road bike, especially maybe a little bit, but you don't feel it. And we had an interview with Gerard Vroom also, and there are many interviews around with him, who is the designer of the open gravel bikes. And he said, okay, now the gravel bike is still a niche, and he sees it opposite, that the gravel bike will be the common thing in the future and the road bike will be the niche. Because unless you're a race biker, you don't need it.
And that's why I said, unless you're trying to get from A to B as fast as you can, why wouldn't you want to ride something that's more comfortable? It's the tires, it's almost like having a shock absorber in there. And as I told you both before, we sat down here, I ride a fat tire bike. That's what I enjoy riding. I ride on the road in Chicago, and it's so much more comfortable than, even my commuter that's got a little wider tires and fenders, as long as it's not raining.
Yeah.
I love my fat tire bike.
Yeah.
So fat tire bike, is it a road bike with fat tires, like a gravel bike?
No, it's a
fat, really fat bike.
Well, and the biggest problem is you have to have the handlebars cut down so you can get between the cars.
Okay. Well, it's Chicago. It's a little bit more packed than tiny Hanover.
Right.
Yeah.
So, sometimes the tires are almost too fat to get between the cars.
All right.
Yeah, in US, as far as I heard from many of my partners there, it's not really easy for cyclists there, because there is to having bike lanes and stuff like this. It's just, I think, in the beginning that they are building up the infrastructure for bikers too, right?
Yeah. So we're lucky in Chicago. The city government has been very supportive of trying to make the city more bike friendly, and we are getting lots of bike lanes, and you can see it in the numbers of people commuting on their bikes now. Yeah. It's really grown, and it's nice riding when our weather's good, and you pull up to a stop sign and during rush hour in the morning, and there are 30 other bikes, waiting at the stoplight with you, because that didn't occur before, but now we're getting more and more people. Yeah,
all the world is learning from Copenhagen. Do you know Copenhagen? Copenhagen in Denmark, who really have a green light phases for the cyclists. If you go for 20 kilometers per hour as a cyclist, you always have green lights.
Wow,
stuff like this.
Yeah,
and if you get them this is some politics learn now. If you get the infrastructure right, people get away from the car because they can park in front of their door with their bicycle.
Well, and my commute on a bike is half of what it is if I were in a car.
Yeah.
And so it makes it so much
time consuming.
It's half.
Yeah, it's always cool to go faster than the traffic jam beside you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So interestingly, you brought the electronic shifting first to the road bike, although the mountain bike was your main business usually. And
and it was kind of an interesting debate inside the company because we probably could have had the mountain bike product ready first if we'd wanted to, but we took resources to the road bike element of that just because, we were doing so well in mountain bike anyway. We didn't know how much more, how much better we could do. So it was, let's get it where we need the help.
Okay.
But, and when I say that, because it has been our company goal and our philosophy, make it easy. And if you get rid of the front derailleur, the bike works a lot better. Front shifting does not compare to rear shifting. And so we'd already killed the front derailleur
on the mountain bike.
Yeah.
And so if you're developing an electronic system and you only have to do one derailleur as opposed to two, it's cut down a lot of your work.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So interesting that, it's strengthen your weakness. Go to the road bike where you have a weakness, like it's like in training. If you're on triathlete and you're not good in swimming, go swimming.
T-Bar knows all about that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, very interesting.
So being in the bike business, and we're mentioning the cars and doing a lot of pollution, and you go by car, you prefer the bike for commute instead of the car, and we all love the outside and enjoying nature. Is there something you want to give back? Because, well, this is where we make the money from. You and we do, because people like outdoors. So, and a lot of climate debate is on these days. So is there something we can say, oh, this is where SRAM also stands for? Is there something you give back?
Yeah, so actually there are two areas. We have the SRAM Cycling Fund, which helps promote urban cycling. But then the other one's World Bicycle Relief. And so it's a charitable arm that FK Day, Stan's brother.
One of the founders as well.
Right, yeah. So FK, that's been his big push, and he's really dedicated all of his time to that for the last 6-7 years now. And that's all about providing bikes in underdeveloped countries for children trying to go to school, or for the WHOs trying to help, get their people from location to location easier, and making the commute available for, in a lot of the, African countries, the kids have a, 3-mile to 6-mile walk to school every day. So providing bikes for those children so that they can get to school every day, because otherwise they can't do it. And it helps children overall, but especially it's probably more focused for the women in those countries. And so that's been a huge thing that we've been involved with. And it's great. We've had incredible support from the rest of the cycling industry with that too.
So they joined.
Yeah. And so, even our competitors have been supporters of that. But, bike brands, other parts and accessory manufacturers, it's been a great thing. And I don't know, have we hit 500,000 bikes now in the field? Yeah, so we've provided over 500,000 bikes now into the field. And it's not that we're just providing a bike to these areas, but that we've even worked on development of a bike that works there, because, usually it's on a dirty, rusty...
Yeah, it has to be very robust.
A dirty, dusty... path or road, and, a normal transmission or bike or tires don't work on it, and they would break down too quickly. Mm-hmm. And so we've helped develop, bikes that actually work in the application, and they'll hold up so that, someone doesn't, a girl riding to school doesn't get a bike that's broken in 2 or 3 months.
when Kubica had a Tour de France team, the Kubica was also the same idea. Are you working together, or is it two ideas separating?
No, I think it's two ideas separately. Yeah, okay. I don't think we're.
But the idea is similar, that giving these people bikes make it easier.
Yeah.
For getting their life done, going to school and.
Right, and it's it's not that we're just providing bikes. We do a lot of resource testing, and there've been a lot of work with the WGOs in terms of doing analysis on the benefits of all this. So it's been a great project, and FK has done a great job, and we've got offices all over the world now with it, from Africa to Europe and in the U.S.
Yeah, cool. It is also one good thing, because they don't have to run to school any longer. Maybe we get another marathon.
Well, the fastest man in the world is definitely not a German one at the moment in the marathon. Yeah. Right. This is really great, because when companies make a lot of money, they grow and they have a standing, and they are there. It's something what we really like.
What I like about this fact is that you are doing something where you really have expertise, or you know what you're doing, because you're from the bike business. You know how to build bikes and stuff like this. So it's really cool that it's related with your industry, what you're doing. Yeah,
but the interesting thing is, our philosophy is we're building products to go on bikes that are retail for €1,000 and up. So we've never focused on anything for bikes like that. So they actually have been growing a dedicated team of developers now that are working on producing bikes, bike parts, components for bikes like that.
Okay.
Because we never, that wasn't anything. It wasn't, I can't even say it was our bread and butter, because it wasn't anything at all that we'd ever looked at.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's good that it's good. Giving something back is always good. If you're really successful, give something back, and that's why I asked the questions.
No, it's a great question. So,
right. So
we have all our questions. Anything we forgot to ask you?
Something very important you want to give to the world.
What I'd like to say is, cycling is a great endeavor for people. It's, great for your health. It's great for the environment. If you live in an area that you can get to work, like I said, in Chicago, it's easier, it's faster for me to ride my bike than it is to commute by car or, bus or train, or, it's, and it's good for your health. It's great. And, it is fun being in the bicycle industry. It's a great place to work too.
I have the feeling too. I'm really new in the bicycle industry. I'm doing cycling a lot of time, but now I'm in the business. It's just 2-3 years now, and this is what I also feel, that these people are smart and inventing always cool stuff, and the cycling now with the gravel bikes. I have the feeling that the market opens to more people who would never go on a road bike, but they don't want to have a mountain bike because they are not living in the mountains, stuff like this. So the feeling is that with this kind of bikes, and we have customer like this, they buy their first bike, which is a gravel bike, and they say, okay, I never would ride this thin tires, but with the big tires, this is a perfect bike for me, and it's fitted for me. And especially in Europe, I have also the feeling, also here in my hometown Hanover, everything could be faster, developing more bike lanes and stuff like this, but they are doing something. And I have the feeling, and I'm commuting through the city, but needing only 2-3 red lights for me, stuff like this. They're doing a lot to in the infrastructure. The climate change discussion also forces the cities to do more for cyclists. I don't know if you have the same development in US, or it's maybe different from what's the name of your countries there?
States.
From state to state may be different. I saw it in California, where a lot of green lanes were. Do you have also a feeling that in US there is really a moving to the direction of the cyclists and to the commuting and stuff like this?
It's not like Europe, for sure.
Okay.
But there definitely are cities that are trying to make it more convenient and safe for the cyclist.
Okay.
But then there are also plenty of cities that are not even thinking about it. So
yeah, but you have a lot of cities. And I think it's a development you need to make over 10, 20, 30 years to get
But
an infrastructure.
there is not enough time for 20, 30 years. What do you think? There's no time. Or, well, we have to change it a little bit faster.
yeah, we are just really slow in the U.S. with regard to change. And I'm not
the
saying
podcast is going to be also seen, I think, in the U.S.
Yeah. And
but
I'm
here's
not
your message.
And I'm not saying that's the way it should be, but unfortunately, we let. I got to be careful.
On.
Don't worry. So this is what I'm saying. You always, as a cyclist like me and who wants to go with a bike and stuff like this, I always have the feeling it could be quicker. And there could be a bike lane more. It should be not too small, stuff like this. But it always can be quicker. But I have the feeling that there is something moving slowly on now, and then there will be a quicker way in the future, maybe.
And I think that, the young people in the U.S. are probably thinking more about this type of stuff. So I think that will help push us to make those changes, especially as the younger people become more involved in politics, because that's where they got to be. They got to be involved in the politics to make those changes, because otherwise the politicians aren't going to push for any kind of change if they're not, hearing it from the base. Yeah. That's unfortunately that's how it is in the U.S. And sometimes it can be very frustrating on many different fronts.
Yeah, there's a generation change here in Europe too. In my staff, young people who are here living in a city like Hanover, it's a 500,000 people city. They don't even think about buying a car. And my most important thing when I was a kid with 18, 20 years, I need a car. So it's kind of a mind-changing thing, which is coming over the generations now, because traffic is not really it's not cool to ride the car.
Doesn't make the place a nicer place if you are stuck up in traffic all the time.
And the infrastructure in general goes better with car sharing, bike sharing. The e-bikes are coming, which makes it easier to go from A to B for people who don't want to make sports in the morning, stuff like this. So
yeah, I don't have a car in Chicago anymore. I don't need
all
one,
right.
So
that's a statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. We have a small game which we sometimes play with our guests here.
We captured that from a very, very famous German podcast where we captured the game, so we have to mention that.
Okay.
It's just an A/B game. Like we are just saying two words, and you decide which word. Like we say.
I don't get to give a description why, or
we can afterwards we can.
Afterwards you can if you want. Okay. If you say, for this answer I would like to explain, but just don't think about it very long. Just A or B.
Fast as possible.
Say the name.
At the end of the show, we make a psychological analysis about your answers, so we know what kind of character you are.
Okay.
So how do I want to do it? You want
so usually the question is red or green, and you say green, for example, or red, maybe more red for SRAM. But so I have some just easy questions for the beginning, like yes or maybe.
Yes.
Okay, and the color or monochrome?
Color.
Black or white?
Black.
Okay. You can continue with the next one, which goes more in the direction of cycling.
Gravel or pavement?
Gravel.
1 by or 2 by?
1 by.
That was really quick then.
Remember
303 404?
I'm sorry?
303 404.
303.
Uphill, downhill?
Uphill.
650B, 700C.
650B.
Mountain bike or road bike?
Mountain bike. But I don't ride a mountain bike.
Okay, now we have something about drinks and stuff like this.
Nothing to do with bikes anymore.
So, Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Beer or wine?
Beer.
Butt or Becks?
Beck's.
And music, AC/DC, Bee Gees.
Bee Gees.
Who wrote that question?
So, continue.
What is the next one? Okay. Now it's
Something you don't own.
Also, what you don't own. But anyway, Porsche or Jeep?
Jeep.
Right. Tesla or BMW?
BMW.
Train or plane?
Plane.
Plane. Now it's your turn.
So, it's Technic now, iOS or Android?
iOS.
Mac or PC?
PC.
Okay. Garmin or Wahoo?
Wahoo.
Book or ebook?
Book.
Apple Watch, mechanical watch.
Mechanical.
Okay.
I love that answer. Okay, now that is a tough one. Go for the beer first. Go ahead. Ironman Hawaii or Tour de France?
Hawaii.
Hey. The ex-triathlete. Alpe d'Huez or Mont Ventoux?
Both.
Okay, that's
okay.
that's a good answer. Rocky Mountains or the Alps?
Alps.
Okay. Golf or ski? We know the answer, but golf or ski? Golf. Swim or run?
Run.
American football or soccer?
Football. American football.
Okay. That's it.
That's
Was
it.
easy.
All right.
So we know everything now about you. We have a picture of Scott King.
But before we started, you are talking about Coke and Pepsi. Why Pepsi?
So I think Pepsi tastes better, but the fizz doesn't last.
Break. This is not a sponsored podcast. We have nothing to do with either Pepsi or Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
But usually I buy whatever's cheaper.
Okay, really? Yeah, cool. So, what's... I would have bet that it's Coke because most of the Americans, I think Coke is still the most popular brand, right?
So it depends on where it's bought.
Okay.
If it's bought in a restaurant, it's Coke. If it's bought in a grocery store, it's Pepsi.
Oh.
Okay. Unbelievable. I don't get it. Why?
Because Pepsi's cheaper or they have...
I think it's just the way they market and their distribution systems and their sales and
maybe that's something.
I was actually involved with a company that put on a annual meeting for a company in the soft drink industry, and that's why I know that.
Okay.
Well, it's a
cool.
cycling podcast, but we ended up with Coke or with Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whatever.
Good. So I want to thank you, Scott, for having the visit us here in Hanover and making all this stuff possible to interview you. And I learned a lot about the history of SRAM, which is really cool. And we had a lot of fun, I think talking to each other. And
thank you very much. I really
So it was your first podcast.
It was my first podcast.
So we spread it out to the world.
Yeah.
Good.
Had a great time. Yeah.
Then have a good and safe trip back in the next days. Are you traveling back or?
I'm actually in Germany till Wednesday.
Okay.
So I'm here for another 5 days.
Just for work or also a little bit?
Work.
Work, okay.
Work, okay.
Work at SRAM, okay. Yeah, good. Thank you very much again.
Thank you for stopping by.
Thanks so
it was
much.
a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Great fun.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks.
And bye-bye to all our listeners. And next time we are back in German.
German language
Okay.
next time.
Bye-bye.